Welcome back. Today I'm going to share with you guys one of my favorite implements and favorite things that I love about training karate. It's called the Makiwara. The Makiwara is a striking post, but it's a lot more than that. One of the most important things I can tell you about this is it teaches us how to actually penetrate with powerful striking ability. It also conditions your knuckles and other things of that nature. A Makiwara does not necessarily have to be on a post. I did have a parent, which I'm very thankful for, that gave me a thick phone book that I'm going to bring over to the dojo and show you guys how to make a striking post that you can use at home as well. The Makiwara post is a spring-loaded device. It's not solid. It moves, as you can see. If it was solid, it actually wouldn't give me the proper feedback. I wouldn't be able to tell if I was hitting correctly. And that's very important with this particular item. When you're first beginning out on this, it's very important that you remember how to make your karate fist. You want to curl from here, from the pinky down in, curling the first two knuckles, and then line those two knuckles up with that bone. You don't want your fist here. You also don't want your fist like this or bent down too far. You want it lined up perfectly. The striking of the Makiwara comes from the hip. We don't go muscle and throw our body into it. It's all about popping with the hip. The hip throws the punch. In the beginning, when you're first training, you're going to notice that you got a lot of excess hip movement. As you get higher rank, you can barely see it because it becomes more natural. Application of physic is you don't strike here and hit the surface. You're actually striking through and pulling the fist back. Speed striking is one way of doing this, but for beginners, you actually have to feel the feedback from the Makiwara. It gives you a proper ability. If you're hitting and you're bouncing off of it when it's giving you the feedback, you know there's something wrong with your punch because it shouldn't. When you hit, it should hit and push in and come back. There should be no bouncing off of it. There should be no hand coming off of it either. You shouldn't be hitting and bouncing the hand back as well as that goes either. How I teach beginners is you're going to start in the front stance in Kosodachi, set up the front hand, the lead hand, so you got good distance on this. Bend the elbow slightly so you know that you're close enough. Execute a couple of practice strikes. And then you're going to throw the hip, and when you do this, notice the back leg. I'll never come up on the ball of the foot. I always keep my heel down so I can get proper power with that. So I'm focused here, a couple practice strikes, and you always do this in a series of 10. Okay, so there'd be each, ni, san, shi, go, ro, sich, hach, q, and then on 10, and you can tell it's going to be a very powerful strike. Now as you notice, there's a lot of power driving into that punch. The second way to do that is what we call kumite dachi with the speed punch. You can do that in a series of 10. Always remember you're going to switch sides. So after I did this, I'd switch and do the same thing on the other side as well. Kumite dachi. One of the great things I like about a Makiwara for a reverse punch, it builds an invisible punch, one that people can't see coming. Most people, when they're fighting, they go through their punch, they'll lift their shoulder, they'll sink their weight, they'll throw their elbow out. There's always going to be some kind of tell. Those people that have trained on the Makiwara, there is no tell. You're here, right, punches right in your face without even really seeing it coming. So what we do is we set this up in our kumite dachi, our fighting stance. Our lead hand is just touching, fingertips are touching. We throw a couple of practice hits, okay? It throws from the hip, so I can be here. My hip is going to actually throw the punch and drive back and drive back. So when I'm focused here, and you want to feel that impact, feel it go through and back. You don't want to hit the target, you want to hit through the target. Drive it in and back, drive it in and back. Throw that hip into that punch. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. All hip, all hip, all hip, okay? This can be set up at home. You can easily put a post in the backyard, a 4x4. Lots of options on this. But it's one of the greatest things out there. As far as building the top part of this one's leather, and it has a pad underneath. Well, I can't pull it out because I got tight. But it has a pad underneath the leather. You don't necessarily need the pad, but I have this on here because a lot of beginner students use it in my dojo. You can actually buy leather and make your own pads too at Hobby Lobby, but I don't know if they're open right now or not. Anyway, that's Makiwara 101. Great way of training, great way to build up a lot of power. Some words of advice. Years ago when I started out, when we were hitting Makiwara, we actually had those types right there, which are canvas cover. A lot of people couldn't afford these. As far as that goes, they've gotten cheaper and they're easier to build now, and there's plans all over the internet to make them as well. They would hit this repeatedly, even when their knuckles broke open and they would bleed and there would be blood on the Makiwara, and they would all brag about it and they'd show off their big old callous knuckles and the blood coming down and all this other stuff. That's not training with the Makiwara. That's ego, that's arrogance, that's cockiness. Those don't matter. They're not something that you want to do. All the years that I've trained with the Makiwara, which has been since about '86, the one thing I was always told was if you bleed, you're done. Don't keep hitting it. Because other people are going to be using it, number one. Number two, you can easily get infected. That's a big one. I actually know people that got infected on their fingers and it was very gross. So don't hit it till it bleeds. And that doesn't really prove that you're doing the training correctly. What's more impressive is 10 solid, great Makiwara strikes. Other ways of striking the Makiwara, you can hit with back fist, knife hand. You got lots of ways you can practice striking with the back. You can even do back, knuckle, invert. Very simple. Okay, Kagazuki, knife hands. Okay, all kinds of stuff. Save the kicking on the Makiwara until you get back in the dojo so I can teach you how to do it without hurting yourself. I see a lot of people break their toes when they're kicking these poles. So, but that's it. Makiwara 101. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll talk to you soon.